So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and I. I hope you enjoyed listening to us give our kind of mid-season adjacent recap of the NHL season, and we'll see how our calls look in a couple of months, almost at the end of the season at the time of recording. But that was a lot of fun. So now for episode 107 of Eazy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. So what's up to the people?
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having an awesome time right now. Excited to be recording with you tonight, Eric. It's been a hot minute. We're going to be talking about something that's been trending and on all our social medias this past couple months. We're going to be talking about a TV show. And Eric, without further ado, why don't you let the listeners know what that TV show is?
Yep. Well said. So yeah, for this episode, we're going to be going over the latest HBO smash show. That's kind of taken, like Matt said, the internet and the world, dare I say, by storm, which would be The Last of Us, which is an adaptation of what's cited as like the best video game of all time. So right there, you have a high bar to meet in terms of there's a rabid fan base that you need to appease in doing this correctly. And if there's one thing I know anyways about video game adaptations, that more often than not, they're pretty bad. So tall task ahead of it to begin with, and I think HBO is the perfect platform for it, a 9-episode show. And I'm really excited to talk about the show with you, Matt. Just a quick premise for anyone who hasn't seen the show. It's an post-apocalyptic show where it gets in the title, right? The Last of Us. A lot of humanity has been annihilated or has become, basically, they don't say the word zombies, but they've essentially become zombies. And the rest of us are trying to just survive in this new reality. And we meet a lot of interesting characters along the way. But we follow two characters, Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, and Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey. So, I feel like if you're listening to this episode, you know what the show is, but I just want to give that little summary of what we're dealing with here. And before we just get into everything there, Matt, what were your initial thoughts on this show based on expectations and just how you enjoyed the show in general?
Before I answer that, Eric, quickly, did you have a history with the video game? I did not. I didn't even know it was a video game. Did you? And have you played it?
So I did know it was a video game. I had never heard of the video game before the show was announced. And even at that, it was announced years ago, and I paid really no heed to it as I had never heard of the game beforehand. And the only thing I knew of it was that it's HBO show, Pedro Pascal's in it, and they're hyping this up as okay, this is going to be HBO's next big show. So that's what I knew about it going into it, and I actually did a good job at staying away from trailers, so I went in pretty fresh. So yeah, no, I've not played the game, and I don't really want to either, because now the future seasons are going to be based on the second game, and I want to keep that still going blind, basically.
Okay, so same boat as me. When this show was when episode 1 came out of this show, I swear the next day I was on TikTok, actually, I'll be honest, and kept seeing videos of this show. I'm like, what is this? The whole season went by. Well, just for the listeners, I watched all the episodes in the last 4 days before recording. And I watched the season finale the day after it aired. So I just got everything at the end. I had no interest in watching the show. Eric, you pushed me to watch it for the pod, and I'm so glad you did. My initial thoughts are, I love this show because it was fast paced, had great characters. I was never bored. Good action, good human drama about the human condition. I'm gonna get into it later. Just initial thoughts, I freaking loved it. How about you?
Yeah, same here. Like I said, going into it, I had high expectations just because of how it was being hyped up. And Pedro Pascal right now, he's the hot actor. He can't really miss. He's struck gold in Mando. So just coming off the hype of that show and the few other movie roles that he's getting, I was just excited to see him in another lead role and see how he could do. And for me, he was one of the big standouts of this show, obviously, as one of the only two main characters that we see in every episode, pretty much. Love the show. Like you said, the setting itself was really cool. I love the production value that only really HBO can give you in this television medium. And just breathtaking scenery. I don't know how much of it was CGI, honestly, but it never really looked bad, if ever, honestly. Just a lot of lush colors, cool. Like, you can't go wrong with a snow setting. And we don't really see much post-apocalyptic, or I don't anyways. That's not really a genre I seek. But this, like, the last show I watched, like, similar to this, I guess, would be Walking Dead. And initial impression, this is miles ahead of Walking Dead. And I don't foresee this show having the same trajectory as the Walking Dead, because Walking Dead started off pretty solid. Like, the first few seasons were really good, but then it got really it went on to like season 27 until they finally called it quits. But no, this fantastic first season, and to open our year off with a show like this, like, we're pretty blessed to have like it was a January release, which I feel like you don't see too often. They want to keep those big shows for later in the year, but no, this is the bar to reach now for like what's the next best show, what's going to be the best show of the year. This is starting the conversation, in my opinion.
Very well said, Eric. I'm a lover of the post-apocalyptic genre, shows and movies. Comparing it to The Walking Dead is really good, because I feel like if we had went the Walking Dead route, like, I feel like every episode would have been stretched into a whole season for The Last of Us. Like, I like the episodic nature of the first season of like meeting different groups every episode and moving along. Like, this season, well, in my opinion, I watched it all in a couple of days, but like it moved along really fast, and I felt like a Walking Dead is just agonizingly slow compared to The Last of Us. Like I said, each episode of The Last of Us would have been a whole Walking Dead season. Post-apocalyptic genre, like, what I love about Last of Us, and actually no one spoiled it for me, but like, I didn't know we were thrown 20 years into like the apocalypse. We already have like things established. We have a fascist dictatorship government, Fedra. We have like the rebels. We have raiders, slavers, like they say, all sorts of people, much more too, but we'll get into spoilers later. Right away, deep dive into this world, Eric. I'm like so hooked. What did you think, though? We do start off with like the 2003 events, like when the virus actually like contracts and infects everybody. What did you think of like the scenes with his daughter, and like, I mean, obviously super emotional. Like, I did not expect that gut punch like 40 minutes into this new show. Like, what did you think of episode 1? What happens to the daughter?
So, loved seeing like the outbreak of everything and how it all, like, the world went to shit basically. So obviously, knowing that the premise of the show was that we're following Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, who does not play his real daughter in the show, I knew her days and minutes on the screen were numbered. Did I know for sure it was going to be at the end of episode 1? No. Was I surprised? No. Like, I saw the death coming when they were in that situation with the, I think it was like an army officer there pointing the gun at them there. I figured like that was going to be the end of her there. Very sad. And right away you get to feel for Joel with the loss of his daughter, and then also being separated from his brother, having to... And then with that time jump too, you have no idea the things he's had to do to survive. So I love how they really introduced us to this world. And again, I don't want to keep comparing to Walking Dead, but we really don't see how everything started in Walking Dead. We're just like, Rick ends up getting knocked out and he wakes up in a hospital out of a coma and the world's already went to shit. So this nice background info was very appreciated on my end. And I did like how they also kept going a few times in the season, not too many times, but back just to show like how they made the decision to bomb certain cities, right? Like to see what I think was the first infected, where I forget exactly where it was. It was in a Southern American country where that like the doctor or whatever she was there made that call, like, yeah, we have to take care of this immediately. And even that wasn't, it was too late by that point. But no, loved how they set everything up. And then, like you said, the two different entities like Fedra, Fireflies, I want to learn more about them to really know which team am I. Am I a Firefly guy? Am I a Fedra guy? I'm not sure. They didn't really give us the chance to choose, other than having Ellie be more aligned with Fedra and against the Fireflies, I would say, based on her reaction to like her friend enlisting in the Fireflies. And I also, before I forget, I want to touch on a point you just made about like how an episode of Last of Us could have been a season of Walking Dead. 100%. I was actually a little surprised at how the pace of the season went along, because I kept waiting for like our big bad to appear, because in this setting, like, you know, really like it's humanity at its worst basically at this stage. They're just trying to survive. So the real villains are going to be the other humans we encounter, not the infected. So the Kansas City plot, that was 2 episodes. That's 2 seasons in Walking Dead. Like 100%. You're not getting rid of the woman in charge there. I'm terrible with names, but she's not getting clapped after 2 episodes. But it was a great little mini plot, and again, it was constant character development for Ellie and Joel, and yeah, I would have liked to see, though, out of some of those episodes, maybe someone add on to their party and get a different dynamic with certain other characters. That would have been maybe a minor complaint that I would have had. It'd be like, give us a few other characters that we can learn to like as well.
You're right. It did move fast, but to me that was like a strength. I was never bored. You brought up Joel. Like we see him in 2003. We see him in 2023. Joel is my favorite character in this show because we see from episode 1 to 9 he does a huge transformation, and I loved seeing that bit by bit. You know, you've seen it in other movies where the character's stoic at the beginning, not really friendly, doesn't like his new companion, and then grows to like them. But the way The Last of Us did it was just so magical and emotional, and didn't beat you over the head with cliches and stuff like stereotypical crap. This show did a great job of not like episode 3 is a good example, the Bill and Frank episode, of not like beating you over the head with sentimental stuff, but having that sentimental stuff there anyways, just like done right, done delicately and beautifully, you know. It was not easy to do, have like a homosexual couple and like introduce that, but not like, you know, there were little inferences like how Frank figured out that Bill was gay. Like, I loved all the tact and I don't know, just like the delicate way they handled that episode. And at episode 3, Eric, I don't know about you, I was gutted. I was like, I knew it was an emotional episode, but it hit home for me in terms of like very sad. How about you?
Yeah, so I didn't get to see that episode live, and I saw on social media everyone was like, oh, you're going to be in tears by then. I'm like, all right, what happens in this episode? I did not cry watching that episode, but it was definitely emotional for sure. And one of the best episodes of the season by far, honestly. Like a big deviation from what we had seen in the first 2 episodes. I quite enjoyed it a lot. Like, it was like you said, beautiful story, and like it's a risk, right, of deviating to follow 2 other characters that we don't know at all, and like focusing on them. But it was a great way of showing what else happens in the apocalypse, like the very human element of like falling for someone, and especially for them, like it was, I think Frank, he like obviously had never been with a man, and like it was very uncomfortable for him, so to express those feelings. And they did a great job, like you said, at that, like the build up to that. And I figured out that he was interested in Bill when he like went into his room while he was in the shower and like just put the clothes on his bed there, like all that there. But no, they did a great job, like you said, not making it overly obvious that there's interest, and no, really good stuff. And yeah, very sad. And like I did see that coming though, that it would be like a Romeo and Juliet style, spoiler alert, double suicide. But no, it was great, and again, it did still tie into the main story of how Joel and Tess did start to build a little network of people to share resources and like to get a friendship out of them as well. And no, they both did a great job. The 2 actors, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, I believe, and I think they one of them, if not both of them, would deserve an outstanding guest in a series primetime Emmy nomination, I think. So no, that was one of the better episodes. It didn't end up being my favorite one. That would be episode 8 for me once we get to that. Yeah. But no, great episode for sure. And like some good humor in that one as well. I did appreciate like when they cut from like there's a time jump from like Frank saying Bill could stay with him, and then it cuts right away to like a few years down the line. They're just like F-bombing at each other. It was pretty funny. So like you do need that stuff in those kind of episodes too. So they definitely hit it out of the park with that one.
Yeah, that episode also had like Nick Offerman. I think it's Bill, right? Or is it Frank? Bill?
Yeah, it's one of the 2.
I think it's Bill. like he's living his fantasy at the beginning. You know, he wanted humanity wiped out. He can go to all the stores, grab all the gasoline he wants, build his little dream vacation, you know, haven. So that was cool, that part. But then he kind of gets bored, and then learned that he has to take care of someone to like make his life meaningful, and like all that handled beautifully. Another thing that was handled beautifully, I don't want to forget the Tess character in episode 1 and 2. And now we're going full spoilers, folks. We're just gonna, if you haven't seen the show, like stop listening and go watch it. But like episode 1 and 2 have the Tess character, and they don't really tell you, is she Joel's girlfriend? Like, is she Joel's girlfriend? Are they closer than, like, are they in love? Are they just partners? And they don't need to tell us, right, Eric? They don't need to. Yeah, they share a bed, but are they there for convenience, or do they have feelings for each other? When Tess does her like sacrificial grenade thing, Joel doesn't really linger on that long. It's like it's a abrupt goodbye. Like, I'm out of here with Ellie. Like, what do you think of all that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there were feelings there, like, because whenever Ellie would bring up Tess, like, he didn't want to talk about her at all. Like, if it was just some girl he was just hooking up with, I think he would have been like, yeah, she sacrificed herself so we could get away, and we had some fun. Like, it was great. But I do think there was something a little deeper there as well. But you're right, though. Like, they didn't explicitly say anything. It was open to interpretation as far as how serious it was. And I think it made sense, too, in this world. That, like, that's just how it is. Like, we don't really put labels. Like, we could be gone any day. Like, why say, like in with Tommy, his brother, like, oh, this is my wife. Like, oh, what? What's going on here? It's a fantasy out in that Wyoming area. But,
yeah.
No, I loved her character. Anna Torv, I know her from Fringe, the cult classic show. She did a great job. It was always fun seeing her pop up and stuff. She's also in Mindhunter, too. Criminally underrated show. Did a great job, 2-episode appearance. Like, that was also a disgusting sacrifice at the end there when she was like making out with that cordyceps at the end there. So like, but seeing stuff like that was like, that's part of the appeal of the show, right? Like, you don't see that in anything else. Like, some just nasty, infected human interactions, and obviously uncomfortable. But she went out like a G and made it so that our characters could live to hopefully not die, but probably will another day. Was a big fan of her, though, all that to say.
I love Anna Torv, too, because I never watched Fringe. Maybe future discussion, maybe. But Mindhunter is awesome. So, like, I rewatched episode 1 and 2, and Bill and Frank do get mentioned quite a bit, like, more than I thought the first time. So, like, I like the explanation. Like, rewatching, actually, Eric, like, the first 2 episodes, I caught on to so many things. It's crazy. So many things Ellie says, like, what she says about, like, her past and what comes back. Anyways, we'll get back to that, like, episode 7, I believe. But then, like, okay, so the scene where Joel and Ellie arrive at Bill and Frank's, they find the note, super emotional, like, note that Bill left. And then they get the truck, and then they start their journey. At that moment, like, at the end of episode 3, I was like, freaking locked and loaded. The 2 of them, they're ready. They got supplies. Where is this show going to go? And episode 4 and 5 is with the Kansas people, I believe, right, Eric?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, with Melanie Linsky's character. I know the actress, I forget her character's name. She was pretty ruthless, though, as the leader of these, like, freedom fighters, I'm guessing, that kicked Fedra out of the city.
Yeah, Kathleen.
Those episodes remind me of The Walking Dead the most. And I was 100%. Like, okay, I don't know where this show's going. Luckily, 2 episodes, very enjoyable. Very sad moments, too. And we got to see, like, a super boss clicker, like, come out of the ground.
Yeah.
Like, is that foreshadowing? Yeah, foreshadowing for season 2. What'd you think of that, like, midsection of the season?
Yeah.
The Kansas City folk.
Yeah, like you, I didn't know how long it was going to last, honestly. Like, right away, that was episode 4 where they get there. I 100% thought this is Walking Dead adjacent, where, like I said earlier in the episode, like, their biggest threat are really the other humans alive in the world, because they're all just fighting to ensure their own survival. And to maintain whatever community, like, at this point, like, all right, we've banded up with this group of people, like, this is my family now, and I'm going to kill everyone else who tries to, like, just walk into where we live. Like, it's pretty crazy that not as many people are open-minded to have a conversation, but that's because it's a product of 20 years of just having to fend for yourself, and, like, you can't trust anybody, right? Like, the worst of humanity prevails. in that kind of setting. So yeah, no, I thought Walking Dead vibes big time. Thankfully, like I had a sense of security in that we're only following two characters. Like I felt pretty confident that Ellie and Joel were safe for this part of the storyline. Later in the season, though, that kind of went away. Like I wasn't sure what was gonna happen with either of them, and that was good, honestly. But I knew for this little plot, they're good odds that they're gonna be fine. And I did like you said and I did see that coming though, that when they're outnumbered, like what was it, like 20-1, like at least at the end, like I knew it was gonna be clickers who were gonna come through and save the day. But no, that was a great episode as well. Episode 5, where like the culmination of the Kansas City plot. I hated Kathleen, honestly. She was a hardened leader, and you kind of have to be in that situation. Like if you're gonna start an uprising within your city, like you can't be a softie, right? So she did a great job, and her like the right hand man Perry was also a solid B villain. Got his head yanked off his shoulders, but still was kind of a boss in the end. But no, and I also like the two characters that they were that they linked up with, Sam and what was it? Henry, yes. Two great additions, and like again, nuanced, gray character, right? Henry, in that he did what he had to do to get his brother some medicine, and that's like the world we live in now. Like it's survival of the fittest, and I'm gonna do what it takes to make sure that me and my brother make it. So I love like all those little nuances in the characters that we encountered in Kansas City. But that being said, I would have liked to see Henry and Sam join our group and just wrap this all up. I knew they're toast as soon as Henry said, I'll tell Sam tomorrow morning that we're joining you guys. I'm like, all right, there ain't going to be no tomorrow morning for you guys. Like, why not just tell him now? Why not just say, okay, we're joining them, like, we're good, or just cut to the next morning? Like, I knew something was going to happen, and sure enough, he was bit. Again, very sad moments, like, at the end of that episode. Go ahead.
I was totally thrown off. I thought Henry and Sam were joining, too. Like, I thought we were going to have them for, like, 3-4 episodes. Several things. Kathleen, like it shows that you become a wolf or a sheep in times of need like that, like the post-apocalyptic time. Like you're either following someone like Kathleen or you become a Kathleen. You have to survive. And the show does a good job of showing that throughout the different communities they meet up to. Episode 4 has a really good payoff to like Ellie always asking for a gun, which I loved. Like, can I have a gun? No. But, like, she does shoot that guy in episode 4, I believe, to rescue Joel. That whole fight shootout scene was awesome, where he tells her to go hide in the wall, and she comes and helps him, and that was so well done. This show excelled at, like, the little gun skirmishes with the human versus humans, and just, like, the brutal knife fights and, like, stabbings. Like, this show is, unapologetic with all that stuff. Just the blood, the meat cleavers going in people's necks. Say that for episode 8, I believe. But no, I really liked like that stuff in episode 4 and 5 was great. I like the fact that like the humans are the real bad guys, but like the clickers, the cordyceps are always gonna be like in the back of your mind, and they even mention them like, oh, are they in the ground? Oh, like you see stuff along the wall, are they in the subway? Like it's always a growing a presence that's there, and you always have to be careful, and it takes priority, as you've seen. Like instead of executing Joel and Ellie and all them, like they turn right away, start fighting the infected horde. So I like that. And we don't linger too long. Like then we're off to the next step of the journey, which is like the journey to Wyoming, because that's where Tommy was like the radio tower pinged from there. So we get like our snowy episodes, I believe, at that point, like getting winter 3 months later, maybe. Yeah. What do you think of like the Tommy trip to the western town part of the season?
Yeah. So the dynamic kind of caught me off guard. Like I thought there was going to be a bigger emotional payoff with Joel and Tommy, honestly, in the reunion. That was probably, I don't want to say the first episode where we really got to see like that'd be doing Pedro Pascal dirty there, but showing, because he did show emotional vulnerability in talking to Tommy about everything that's been going on. But no, overall, that moved much quicker than I thought it would, honestly. Like, again, not to harp on this point, but I thought for sure Tommy, like, from the moment that we were reunited with Tommy, I thought he would be a part of our group going forward. And I didn't think that Joel and Ellie would stay in this community, though. That didn't really cross my mind. But I thought whenever this meetup would happen in the season, I thought Tommy was going to be... I also thought he was going to be more of a corrupt character, honestly, because they're building up this reunion as like, oh, like I can't wait to meet up with my brother again. And I was like, yeah, your brother's changed a little bit, Joel. And it wasn't really the case. It was kind of a weird reunion, in my opinion. Not bad by any means, but just not really what I was expecting. And like you said, I feel like I would really benefit from rewatching each of these episodes because nothing at all is said without a reason, and I think that'll be extremely true for the end of this season. Not to jump there right away, but I think like that's where we're really going to see, like, yeah, make sure you rewatch this season, remember everything that was said here. But no, good episode. It was cool to see a community that is actually very functional and is welcoming and can take on people with open arms. But yeah, like I said, not what I was expecting, but still a solid episode. That's also when it ends off with the big cliffhanger, actually, where they end up going to the hospital, and there are raiders there that they meet up with, and Joel actually takes a little shank to the midsection and falls off his horse at the end of the episode. So that was kind of scary. I wasn't sure how that was going to end for us. But what are your thoughts on the whole Tommy community, and then also leading up to that cliffhanger ending for episode 6?
I liked how episode 6 ended, but like the rest was maybe my least favorite part of the season. The Tommy thing completely off guard too, and the girl's like, "What was your brother's name?" or "What's your name?" And he says like obviously Tommy talked about his brother Joel, but like, and then seeing Tommy right away, completely jarring to me. It was a welcome sight though. I was like, oh, okay, they're going this way now. Seeing it actually like a peaceful town too was refreshing. Yeah. It was the least like eventful episode until like the end when there's like cowboy horse riding in the snow action with like guns, and that was cool to watch. I don't know if I've ever seen that like in a movie, like horse action, and like I don't know. It was really cool, like in post-apocalyptic especially, right? So
yeah, true.
The cliffhanger is cool because episode 7 doesn't necessarily give you all the answers right away. We go into a long flashback episode, which episode 3 and 7 so far are like the ones to do that. Maybe there'll be more in season 2. But like episode 7, you kind of have to wait for your payoff of how Joel's doing. Right. I really liked episode 7. First of all, I don't think I'm giving Ellie enough credit. Bella Ramsey. I love Ellie's character. Bella Ramsey is doing an amazing job as her. She's like just the right amount of swearing and funniness. She's not annoying. She just tells the right amount of like pun jokes. She's not over the top, but she's not super quiet. Like she has a personality. I absolutely love that character. I don't know if you feel the same way, Eric. Bella Ramsey killed it. Yeah.
So my initial thoughts on her character were like, I wasn't sold from the jump. Like I think the first 2 or 3 like she's not really in episode 3 that much. I liked her character. Like I liked what the dynamic was between her and Joel, but wasn't like 100% in on her yet. But I think it was as of episode 5, like where we got all the emotional stuff and just the connection that she had with Sam. That was maybe where it started to shift. Episode 6, I thought she was good, but then 7 and 8 was just her show, literally. Like episode 7 really focused on her, right? It was a full-on flashback Ellie episode, which again I got to see a few weeks after it aired. Saw on social media that like this was a very critically panned episode. Like, and by panned I mean like about like average episode, but people didn't love it. So I went in like, all right, what are we gonna see here? And this is a sign that you shouldn't necessarily read too much into what you see or read anything, honestly, because I loved this episode. I thought it was fantastic. Gave us great insight on who Ellie is, what she's had to go through in the Fedra camp, and I love the dynamic with her and Riley, played by I think Storm Reed is her name, who plays Gia in Euphoria. Zendaya's sister. That's right. Yeah. Who she's like an up-and-coming actress. I've seen her pop up in quite a few things recently. Loved their dynamic too. Right away cued in on Ellie liked her. Ellie liked Riley. and I wasn't sure which way they were gonna go because there's that long build up the whole episode where they're just drinking a little more, and they're starting like Riley's doing all these nice things for her in the mall, and she's gonna either say how she feels or like make a move, and I honestly thought that it was gonna go the other way around where Riley was like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, we're just having fun as friends. Like, I did not see that coming, that it was the feelings were reciprocated. I thought she would be like, yeah, I just see you as a friend. But all that to say, fantastic. It was a great episode. Like, I thought it was just a cool switch up of the scenery too, like all the lights in the mall, and of course, like as soon as they pan away slowly of them like in the arcades and they're just showing other areas of the mall, I'm like, fuck, like there's a clicker in here, and we know who's not dying, and we know who's probably dying. So. But no, I thought it was a great episode, and all that to say, Ellie only got better as the season went along. That would be my thoughts.
That's awesome. It's true. She did grow, and like I liked her even more as the episodes went along. I liked her from the beginning, but like she did progress even higher in my how much I liked her. I loved it in the mall episode 7, like how all the old technology. They're like, oh, what that? Like she's so fascinated by the escalator, the photo booth, all that stuff, the arcade. I just like seeing stuff like that. It's nostalgic. Had many Stranger Things vibes, like mall teenagers in a mall and just shooting the shits and giggles, basically. Unfortunately, like you said, super like downbeat ending to that episode, super sad, and you knew it was gonna happen because Ellie's alluded to like tragedy in her life before to Joel, right? I've lost people too, and I've had to like. She's had to do things. We don't even know her whole journey, actually. But like her getting bullied in the Fedra thing, like we got more of like Ellie's arc and why she's the way she is. So it was really good for character development. Since I binged all the episodes, I didn't really care if this was like an episode that didn't move the story along. I could watch the next episode right away. Yeah. Which brings an interesting point. Should we be watching these once a week or waiting? But if you wait, you're not in the know, and people are going to talk about it at work. So both sides of the coins right there, of the coin. Now we finally, episode 8 is where it is my favorite episode too, Eric. That's when you find out what's going on, at the end of episode 6. Episode 8, most brutal episode, emotionally impactful episode, violent, gory, badass, right, Eric? Is that the perfect word for episode 8? Like just badass and ruthless?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it starts off like I think again Joel is still in bed, like he's wounded, and Ellie has to go out to get food for them. She goes on the hunt, and then the episode starts off in this other community where we get this creepy preacher speaking to this community, and I'm like, all right. Is this going to be someone we come to interact with soon and like is going to be a shepherd of goodwill for our two characters? Or is this, again, are we going to... I honestly thought after... I think it's a cold open, then we get the credit crawl, and then we're still with that community. I'm like, all right, are we actually just going to see this? This is going to be a new character? Like it's going to be like another standalone episode? Like that crossed my mind, knowing that we had seen at least one of those kind of episodes, and then we had the flashback one before. Thankfully, wasn't the case. We get to see Ellie and Joel pretty quickly after that. But, yeah, that was a great episode. When they meet up in the woods after Ellie's shot down that deer and kind of negotiates with them to go get medicine for Joel. And they're at a standoff like in front of the fire. And just the slow build of that whole conversation just had me on the edge of my seat. When he finally reveals, like, we sent 4 men out the other day. I'm like, oh my God, like those are the 4 men. Like it didn't click right away, but as he kept talking and he's like, yeah, 3. Like by that point, it was pretty obvious. Like, yeah, 3 of them came back. One of them was killed by a crazy person, and he was traveling with a girl. I'm like, oh my God, that was why I didn't really see it coming, honestly, when he started talking. But then it's going that way. Great. And then of course the other guy was like around the corner with a gun to Ellie's head, and just this whole big build up to like an eventual confrontation between David the preacher and his flock was just awesome. And then when he goes back to his community and like I don't want to say pimp slaps, it just slaps the girl who says that they should kill Ellie and Joel. No, he was a ruthless character in his own right, like really different. And I liked what he brought to the table. And again, I thought like, all right, is this guy going to be our next bad guy to close the season out? But Ellie had different plans. But no, I was hooked the whole time. Action-packed, badass. Like, I think this is the first time we get to see like Joel's true ruthlessness of like when he just goes man to man with all the guys who are still in the area where he was hiding at, and he tapes two of them up and knifes the one guy in the kneecap. And after that guy gives him the information he needs, he still killed him. And the other guy said, like, why'd you do that? And I was kind of on his side. I'm like, yeah, why did you do that, Joel? Crazy psycho. But no, insane episode. I'll pass it on to you now for your thoughts on all that violence and like where it went with Ellie. Like, just insane ending.
Yeah, he kills the guy, and they're like, why'd you do that? He's like, well, I believed him, so he didn't need this guy, and he just shoots him. That was one of the best lines. I believed him. Because he was supposed to show him on the map. It was his turn to point with the knife.
Yeah.
Okay, that whole episode, it's Ellie's turn to finally, like, save Joel, like, repay Joel for all the times he saved her. It's, like, her turn to, like, to do something for him, which she does. She nurses, she gets the stuff, but, like, then she's in trouble. Joel's ruthlessness, I loved it. I love too that like they showed us this, you know, because it sets up what's going to happen in the finale in episode 9. So like it doesn't come out of left field. Just the best the Ellie and David scene in the jail cell. Where she's like, there's a point where she like almost she hooks him. She's like reeling him in. She's like. She's got him. She's getting him to believe her stuff, and then she gets him, grabs his hand, breaks his finger. Freaking love that stuff. That whole scene was perfect.
Yeah.
And then how like David like turns like on a dime, and he's like, you know, there's a reason why we say tear you to pieces, or he says like a tear you to pieces line. Anyways, it's pretty savage. David is someone that's like. In his mind, he's not doing anything wrong. You know, the end justify the means. He thinks he's righteous. He has to do this he's doing it for the greater good, you know, to save the community. Nothing he's doing is wrong. Cannibalism is fine. I love that the show went there with like an eater community, I call them, I guess, like cannibals. You know, that just would happen in real life if there's an apocalypse. Just people are savages. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I love just the ruthless. I like horror movies, and this was like the closest thing to just like brutal like interrogations and like Ellie meat cleavering people in their throats. Yeah. Like Ellie is, for a small little 14-year-old, like she was pretty freaking badass, like physically, and perfect episode. Like I hardly can find anything wrong with this one. Hopefully it's the highest rated episode. I know a lot of them were, but I mean the show itself is really highly rated.
Yeah.
But yeah, great episode. You already said it's your favorite. It's my favorite too. It leads into like episode 9, I think, the finale, getting into the finale area.
Well, I just want to add on to that episode
slow, right?
so quickly.
Yeah, add on to episode 8.
Just like David, and like you said, David and Ellie in the jail was like some of the peak moments. I think David and Ellie scene were like peak moments of that episode to begin with. And there was kind of like I don't know if like rapey vibe is the best way to word this, but like a very creepy vibe when like he put his hand over hers and like insinuating like, oh, we could rule this place together. And like, man, you're like 40 years older than this guy. It was wild. And that's why I was like setting this guy up as being like a terrifying villain. And even when they're fighting in the end, he even says something along the lines of like, oh, like, you don't know this about me, but my favorite part is when they struggle. Like hinting that like he's like, maybe they raped kids. Again, it's just wild. Just insane stuff with this character. And thankfully, we don't see too much of him after that. She like just meat cleavers him. I think that's how she kills him, right? Like I forget, but she like butchers him basically. She gets on top of him and just like keeps like that was like I was like again jaw on the floor for that scene when she just kept going and just that was like I think she also, I'm just gonna throw out award season left and right out here. She deserves at the very least a nomination for this. I would say for this episode, that's what I would give her. And again, when she was on the table and they're about to like cut off her arm or something, part of her to kill her, like I didn't know if she was gonna make it or not, but there was still that whole like that she's immune storyline that wasn't resolved yet. So it would have been really a disservice to kill her like that. And another thing that you'd probably pick up like rewatching it, when that community is like making food, they're cooking some food for their dinner, and one of the like people in the kitchen asks like, "Oh, what is that? Like, what meat is that?" And then the guy goes like, "It's a venison." Well, like, yeah, we find out like 20 minutes later, it probably wasn't venison. Is all I'm gonna say. So like they did a good job at like not beating you over the head with like the guy being like really hesitating. Like I'm probably exaggerated how much he hesitated there, but it's just how they went about giving us information. The whole season was just perfectly not spoon-fed like that human stew that they were eating in like a few minutes after in that show. But that's pretty much it for my cannibal recap. It was like the fresh version of this episode. But like you said, like we'd for sure see cannibalism in the apocalypse. In the dark days of COVID, like who knows what we could have become, and thankfully it didn't go down that way. But yeah, so no, the favorite episode, I think it is, like I said, highest rated episode, and rightfully so in my opinion.
Yeah, like when like Joel, like they reunite when he reunites with Ellie and she's all shooken up. He's like, "Yeah, it's me." Like that was such a tender moment, and like they're back together. It was awesome.
Love that.
Episode 9 opens up. Everything's a little slower. Like we get a moment in the sun, literally, and with the giraffe. Really cool. You know it's not going to be a whole happy episode. You know episode 9 is not going to be a filler episode. So like you're waiting for something to happen. And like we get the whole Marlene's back, basically, the Fireflies. And they get taken in. And the moment, this moment in the episode, in the finale, like really shook me, like really like gave me goosebumps. Marlene's talking to Joel. He's like in one of the in one of like the waiting rooms or something on a bed. And she's like, "Yeah, we're going to operate on her. And we're going to take where the cordyceps out and everything's going to be fine." Like, and then like Joel's just like, "Well, the cordyceps infects the brain." And then like there's like a shot of him like looking at the 2 armed guards and realizing like, yeah, like you're being held here. You're not going anywhere, Joel. And Ellie's not going to make it. And it was at that moment I was like, holy shit, what's going to happen? Joel, you got to get her out of there. That scene, the Marlene like telling him what was going to happen and him like looking at the armed guards, I was like, holy shit, this is so well done. Did you have the same feeling, or did you like, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of know what's about to go down, basically. It's like, all right, Ellie... And just to bring it back a little more, like, Ellie basically said earlier in the episode, like, that she is here for a reason, and that if that means... I don't know if she explicitly says this, but she implies that, like, she has to do what is meant for her, and what could be meant for her is, like, to literally sacrifice herself so they can make a cure, which is what Marlene says. Like yeah, she's a way out for all of us, and... I think she also says like she would want to do this. She says that later actually in the episode. And then Joel's fatherhood instincts kick in when he's being escorted out and just goes on a friggin' rampage of like, we're not even going to show you any struggles with this guy. Like the montage of him just cutting down those fireflies was just elite and like terrifying in a sense. Like this guy will do whatever it takes to protect and save his daughter. And it was badass. Like I was all for it. I was loving it. And guns down the dock too. I'm glad he spared the nurses. But yeah, it was insane. And it's a very short episode too. Like really, there's not much else that happens other than what you just said and what I just said. But very powerful episode. And like I said, it's going to be one that we look back at because it ends on that, not really a cliffhanger, but like we're headed in this direction now. I believe what you told me happened. We all know that's not what happened. So that's going to come back at some point. And also, just to bring it back even more earlier in the episode, loved the moment between Ellie and Joel where she said, "Oh, how'd you get over Sarah?" And like he finally actually starts talking about his daughter, Sarah. And she says, like, "Well, time heals all wounds." And he says, "It wasn't time that did it." And like it's just understood that it was her who did it, Ellie, right? what a moment. Amazing acting on both parts. Like, give Pedro Pascal an award for this too. He killed it. Like in this episode especially, I was a big fan of his. Dynamite episode. Like I got some flack online. Honestly, I don't know why. Like maybe people wanted more like cordyceps or infected, but I think this does a good job at propelling us forward. But I actually don't know where it's gonna go though now. Like basically now it's still them against the world situation. He's gonna just keep wanting to protect her. But no, just to bring it back to what you said, when he's being held in that room, I'm surprised they let him out to begin with, honestly. Like, they know who they're dealing with here.
Me too.
That's a rookie move. But as soon as they're walking down the stairs, I'm like, all right, he's going to find a way to take them out and just go up. And it was just sick. What did you think of that whole montage of just racking up bodies?
Absolutely unreal. It's those moments in shows or movies where time just disappears for me, and I'm not looking at anything else. I'm like focused on the screen. 10 minutes could go by, it can feel like a minute. I got into the zone basically. Happens when I'm watching like a fantastic movie or show where I'm so glued to what's happening and it's so compelling. So like when a show does that, it's fantastic. Love the parking garage scene too, like with like the last interaction with Marlene and Joel. Great stuff too. I believe like he had his gun like under Ellie, like he's carrying Ellie and he like shoots her from underneath. That was coy. That was awesome. No, fantastic episode. That was a tender moment, Eric, when he's like, it wasn't time. That was very emotional too. Maybe more emotional than the Bill and Frank episode. Because at the end of the day, we're with Joel and Ellie a lot more, right? So like we get to know them more. I'm so excited for like what's to come. I don't even know if Ellie bought everything Joel told her about, like, like he asked him twice, but I don't know. It's definitely coming back as it should. Do you think season 2, are we getting into, like, are we going to have big time jumps? Are we going to, I don't know what's in store, basically. I'm not reading into it. People that are maybe mad at, like, giving flack for episode 9, maybe the video game did this. This should have ended like the video game. I have no idea how the video game ended, so I could care less. If that's the critiques of this show. Super excited for the future. Do we want to get into what we wish this year? Do you want to add more to episode 9?
No, like the only thing I would add would be like Joel just went full Cad Bane in the end and just like wiping the floor, like just cold-blooded assassin at the end. Like especially with Marlene. Yeah. Like I love also they shot that of like jumping forward of them just in the car and then Ellie asking, oh, what happened? And then you just get those slow cuts like Marlene like crawling on the floor. Joel literally had like not an ounce of light in his eyes, like just black beaded eyes and just headshotted her. It was insane. It was actually like you. I was just like a moment out of time, basically. Just like you're sucked into what's happening, and definitely no phone for those 45 minutes. I love the episode, and the critique is actually not from video game fans because apparently the whole season has been extremely faithful to the game and only made minor deviations. So the video game fans, the community has been appeased. I think it's more people, like I said, who wanted more of like a Walking Dead-esque finale where you get like a big showdown with zombies or something there. But I think we're going to see, if we're getting into next season, we're going to see a lot more infected in season 2. I would like to see more of them anyways. Like you said, we had that tease in the 5th episode of like that big boy that looked like he had an entire coral, like Great Barrier Reef coming out of his head. And I think we're going to see more of those guys in seasons 2 and 3. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. I don't like you. I like the episodic feel of like mini stories wrapping up, Mandalorian season 1 style, but there was also like a linear plot at the same time. I want to see another linear plot, and I don't like. It's not gonna be looking for a cure now because he essentially told it like, we don't need to look for a cure. It's already being handled by smarter people than us. So I actually have no idea where they're gonna go, but I wonder if they're gonna go back to Tommy. Like that was mentioned in the last episode too, where he was like, "Hey, like we don't need to do this. Like we can go back to a safe haven and just camp up there." But I think at some point the disaster that they've known to just accept as normal is going to kick in, and that's going to be just infected being the real problem. Because in this season, it was really like humans were the problem. I think next season we're going to see cordyceps, the rise of the fungi, are going to be they're going to be on them. What do you think? What do you think we're going to see?
You said a lot of great stuff there. I agree. We don't need to dwell on Ellie's like immunity. They kind of showed that a little with the mom giving birth and the umbilical cord was still attached. So, like, obviously she passed some sort of immunity to her daughter somehow. Yeah. That's what I think. But we don't need to dwell into that for season 2. It would be cool if they focused on the cordyceps, because they kind of foreshadow, like, okay, Joel says some live 1-2 years, some live, like, have been around since the beginning. That could be the huge guy, right? Like, he might actually have intelligence. Who knows?
Right.
That'd be cool if they made that the danger. I'm anticipating something like Joel and Ellie solo, like them as a duo going on the road and like encountering their own problems, or them joining a community, maybe like Tommy's, and then like they have to overcome the hardship as a group. I could see one of those 2 routes, but definitely like focus more on the infected people. It'd be much cooler. Like it'd be, we don't need to see more Walking Dead stuff. You've shown us you could do it really well, but like show us some like carnage with the infected. Because the infected, like stylistically, like the design of them, Eric, super cool and creepy, and disgusting, and really gross.
Yeah.
My girlfriend hates mushrooms. She'll never watch the show for this reason. Like I told her it was like a fungal infection, and she's like, "Oh, disgusting." Hopefully, we don't have to wait long for season 2. There's going to be other great things to watch in the meantime. Pedro is on an unbelievable run right now, starting with like Game of Thrones season 4 Narcos back like 10 years ago. And like, he keeps going. Super likable guy. I'm glad he's finally like a household name. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's a fantastic show. Everyone needs to watch it. I got my mom I rewatched a couple episodes with my mom, and she's going to watch the whole thing now. I'm like preaching to the masses, like watch this show. It's really, really good.
Hopefully not preaching like David, which I know that's not the case. But no, great show. And like you said, nothing more really to say. I think Joel was the standout. I loved Ellie as well. Like I love their dynamic. Like those were the big 3. Like the 2 of them were the big 3. And I feel like also just to add again for the future, like I've already said a couple of times, I think we're going to see major repercussions from those lies. And that could also be a plot point down the road of like a split up between the 2 of them, sadly. Again, just to make my stance on this, I don't want to see if we see a time jump, no recasting. Like you cannot recast Bella Ramsey. Like if they have to learn one thing from House of the Dragon is that people loved young Rhaenyra. And they didn't dislike the older one, but she was one of the fan favorites. So you don't want to lose that again, HBO. Like, check the game notes.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be a 2-year wait, honestly. Like, because they got House of the Dragon next year. I feel like the production for this show is very large scale. Wouldn't be surprised if, or maybe, who knows, maybe it'll be a late 2024. You never know. But I'm anticipating a little 2-year wait here. But like you said, we're going to be flooded with a bunch of other content for us to also recap. So fear not, people. That's all I had, honestly, on the show. I was going to maybe we already did some comparison to Walking Dead and stuff. And we don't need to talk about Walking Dead anymore. Let the past die.
And I started this episode by saying like I wasn't really necessarily gonna watch this show right away. You're the reason why I watched it so fast to do the pod. But like it's because I've seen so many post-apocalyptic movies and zombie show or like post-apocalyptic shows, and like I'm like, okay, The Last of Us is just another one of those. I'm no rush to see it. But what separates the show above the other ones, in my opinion, is just the level of acting and character development with our 2 main characters, Joel and Ellie. That's what made the show so great. That's why I kept watching it. That's why it was so easy for me to binge like almost 9 hours of television super fast. Like it was very easy for me to watch. It was very enjoyable because of that reason. Just the great character development, the acting. That's what separates the show above all these zombie and infected movies and TV shows.
Yeah, well said. And you are lucky that you did get to binge it. I watched it in like syndication, so every Sunday for the most part. I love that too, though. Like it's fun to have that once a week build up to cap off your weekend show. And like you talk about, a lot of people, a lot of my friends at work watched it, so we talked about it like the next few days, like what we thought, what we want to see happen. So I love that discourse as well. And thankfully HBO is wasting no time giving us Succession season 4 next Sunday. Can't wait for that. So HBO is just on a roll, and they have been since the 90s, and they ain't stopping anytime soon. So love to see it. Yeah, I mean, I'm good to dive into some recommendations if you have anything. Sure. I've been watching lately, like for the first time ever, honestly. It's my in anticipation of going to see Creed 3 in theaters, which I still haven't. But I've been watching all the Rocky movies. I thought I had seen these movies. Like, I never had seen Rocky 1 in full, which is crazy. But, yeah, so I'm up to the 4th one now. Really enjoying them. Like, if you take them for what they are, like, they're not gonna win Academy Awards. Maybe some of them have. I have no idea. But very fun movies to watch. Uplifting. Like, you get your rags to riches, American Dream, One in a Million story. And they're just hype movies, too. Like, they get you fired up. Especially, like, I just watched the Creed movies, too. But I would say go back and watch. So I'm just going to loop all these movies together. Watch them all. They're just hype movies. And I feel like the Creed movies don't get talked about that much. I've heard the 3rd one is good, so I'm excited to see that. But the Rocky movies are really fun. What separates them from the Creed movies, in my opinion, is the slew of supporting characters are really strong, which Creed kind of lacks. You only really have Adonis Creed, Bianca, and Rocky. Those are your big 3 right there. And whereas in Rocky, you have like Rocky, Apollo, Paulie, Mickey, Adrian. Like, that's 5 right there. And you get a couple of others who come in every now and then as well. There's Tony, who's like the kind of mobster that Rocky works for in the first movie. And then just like, Mr. T is Clubber Lang, great villain. Ivan Drago. I've been really enjoying watching these movies. So they're all on Crave. If anyone has Crave, like, I would definitely recommend throwing them on. Easy watch and just fun times.
I enjoy every Rocky movie is good except number 5 in my opinion. Even 6, Rocky Balboa I really like too. Number 6, all of them except the 5th one I really like. First one's a masterpiece. I won Best Picture in 1976 because it's more than just a boxing movie. It's like a story about like a kind of like a loser and a character study on this individual. He doesn't know what to do. Boxing's his avenue out of there. I like that he doesn't win at the end of Rocky 1. Like, it's more realistic. And then Rocky 2 is like the big rematch, which I love. Rocky 3, freaking, it's like from like the high and then the low and then the high again at the end, you know, like you got to rebuild yourself. Number 4 is just a perfect American like cheese, you know, America versus Russia. You finished number 4, Eric?
No, not yet. I've stopped at probably like one of the worst moments to stop at the iconic Drago. I mean, everyone knows what happens with Drago and Apollo, but like the iconic line that he says is the last thing that I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, you stopped there? Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was tired. I just got to shut her down. But you know me, I like to break movies up and watch them in 2, 3, 4, 5 sittings sometimes.
Oh, I do that I have to do that. I don't have time. That's why shows are a little easier for me to watch. No, that's awesome, Eric. I watched a movie that you recommended like at least twice on this show because I know you've watched it a couple times and it made your end of the year list. I watched Devotion.
Okay, nice.
Freaking loved it.
Let's go.
Loved it. What like made it? The scenes that really like marked me, like that really like that I really remember. Like, wow, this is a masterpiece. Is freaking drawing a blank on his name.
Jonathan Majors, Glenn Powell.
Jonathan Majors, thank you. When he's talking to himself in the mirror and recollecting like all the bullying and abuse he's taken just to like get him hyped up, like that came out of left field for me. and I'm like, holy shit, this movie is fucking like, that's an amazing performance.
Yeah.
Amazing, great aerial scenes like in the planes. Didn't really know how it was gonna end, and then kind of saw like what was happening, and I was like crushed, Eric. I was crushed. I didn't expect that to happen. Very sad, very uplifting though in terms of like the camaraderie and like brothers, like brothers in arms. And you've already talked about it, Eric. It's a good movie. I concur with your recommendation, and like this needs to be seen. Devotion, really, really, really solid movie from last year. Good pick for your list.
Yeah, man. No, I was emotional watching that movie. Like, the end was just
Yeah.
wild. It was a wild ride of a movie for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend as well,
Yeah.
obviously. It was my number 5 of last year. Who could forget? Great stuff. The next thing I'll recommend is actually an album, which we're getting back into the rap game, which honestly so far this year it's been a pretty dry year in terms of great rap releases. Like, I actually have nothing that I can pencil in confidently in a top 10 spot. So I'm waiting for stuff to come out. I don't know what will at this point. But the one that's been closest to, and like I've only listened to this once, but really did enjoy it. And it caught me off guard because I was a vocal hater of this guy back in the day, would be the album called Ben by Macklemore. Really good stuff. It was a very good album, like very introspective, emotional. Like, Macklemore has had a lot of hits on the radio, and a lot of them have dabbled with these heavier topics of like substance abuse and like just finding his place in the world, being different. And he does a really good job in this album as well on his own. And there's just something about like some of the songs that resonated with me, and I thought it was like very powerful stuff and an enjoyable listen. So I would recommend Ben by Macklemore. Like I said, it's the closest one that I would, if I listen to this enough times and like it holds up, could be a top 10 release. Obviously, don't want to overhype it like that there, but it was a really solid album. I think it's worth a spin for anyone who likes rap and Macklemore. Any Macklemore fan will definitely love this. Like, I'm not one, and I really enjoyed it, so that tells you.
I'm glad you mentioned an album, because I've been running out of stuff to listen to, Eric. Been listening to old stuff now, but I wrote it down. I'm gonna listen to it, so thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, it's been very dry to say the least. You probably listen to more albums than I have, but I have like nothing to recommend for music. TV, just been watching Mandalorian and my Vikings Valhalla, and Mandalorian. I don't have to say anything. Like, we're gonna be doing a whole show on that. Movies, though, I have a couple more movies I wanted to talk about. M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, Knock at the Cabin. Was excited for this because it's actually based on a novel. So, like, Shyamalan did not write, it's not from his brain, like most of his movies are his original idea. But Knock at the Cabin, really cool. End of the world apocalyptic type movie, actually. That's not really a spoiler, they get into that early, but it's almost a movie of like mental illness versus reality. Anyways, it's a home invasion horror film. Actually, one of the actors, one of the dads in the movie, is played by the guy in Mindhunter, the younger FBI agent, not like the big guy, but the other guy.
Holden
he's
Ford,
really good.
I want to say is his name. What a pull if that's his name.
I mean, I'll check it after. Yeah, you're probably right. Check it out. He's in it, but the home invaders, you got Dave Bautista, Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley in a movie, and 2 other girls that I don't know them. Really different home invasion movie. The whole movie takes place in like the living room. It's almost like a play. It's all dialogue. Super mysterious. They basically invaded the home of this couple. There's the 2 dads and their adoptive daughter, and like they're basically like, we have to come here. There's something we need to do. If we don't do it, the world's gonna end. And they established that pretty early in the movie, so it's not really a spoiler. But basically, they have to do something, and if they don't do it, the whole world's gonna end. These 4 people have seen visions of it happening, and they all saw this. Like, they had to. It was this couple that had to do this thing, or the world's gonna end. So that's the whole premise. What do you do? What do you do in that scenario? That's all I'm going to say on the premise. I really liked the movie. It got a lot of hate because it was maybe far-fetched and ridiculous. I enjoyed the movie. I recommend it because it's original. It's not something you see every day. Dave Bautista is actually really good in the movie. He's like soft-spoken, quiet. He's super like not what you're used to seeing him. He's not funny at all.
Okay.
I don't know. The movie to me was not boring at all. It was very, stimulating and kept me guessing the whole time. So Knock at the Cabin. If you like M. Night Shyamalan's movies, you will like this one.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the next movie I wanted to talk about.
So I have heard of this movie. I'd seen trailers and they established that pretty it's clear in the trailer that that's what the premise of the movie is. So I don't think that's a spoiler at all. It was Holden Ford, by the way. It was able to somehow pull that name. Jonathan Groff is the actor's name. And Dave Bautista. So I'm glad to hear you say that he was solid in the movie because I was gonna ask is there Dave Bautista fatigue? Are we seeing him in too much? He gave a pretty muted performance in the iconic Army of the Dead Zack Snyder classic. Who could forget? But I feel like we're just seeing too much of him, honestly. And I'm glad to hear though that his performance here was a little different than what we've seen of him in the past. But is there a chance for Dave Bautista to become oversaturated for us, Quavo in 2017-18 style?
100%. Because at the end of the day, he's just like another Dwayne Johnson or John Cena. He's just, whether he's super talented or not, he'll be looked at as a wrestler that broke into the acting industry. So and he's limited by his roles just because of his size and strength, and he can only do so much, right? So I think he'd have to do it all. He'd have to dabble in all these genres to break that mold of the Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne, The Rock is comfortable doing those roles and being The Rock in every movie, but I think Dave can potentially break out of that and do different roles. Blade Runner 2049, super small role, completely different for him. You can't see The Rock or John Cena in that role.
That's true.
But Dave Bautista has a more unique look. He's not super. He's more versatile, I think. So I think there's potential for him to not be Dave Bautista fatigue. He can still do movies every year, and he just has to pick his roles and not do the same stereotypical role over and over again.
Okay.
But no, good question, Eric.
Okay, knock at the cabin.
The last thing I want to... Oh, no, it's your turn, Eric. Sorry.
Well, I just had one... I haven't... Like I said, my movies have been Rocky and also watching Mandalorian. Going to save thoughts on that for now. I'll go another album, honestly. Because I was just going through everything that I've downloaded this year, and I did forget about this one, which also, top 10 contender. We'll see if it lands there at the end of the year. It's dropped in January, so that's why I forgot about it. Let's Start Here by Lil Yachty. I don't know if you got a chance to check this out, Matt. So Lil Yachty is someone that I've never, again in a Macklemore way, never been a fan of this guy at all. He's a big auto-tune rapper. He came up at the same time as the Migos, and I just was never a fan of his rap. His voice was just off-putting. But this album, he described as the album I've always wanted to make. So, there's a little more creative freedom maybe being allowed by the label, and him really pushing for what he wants to do. And it was a very surprising album, and I really enjoyed it. It's even labeled as an alternative album. I'm still gonna count it as a rap album, honestly, if it ends up on the list at the end of the year there. But really enjoyed it. Reminiscent of Igor by Tyler the Creator. It's those kind of vibes. If you've ever heard that album, it's very different.
Yeah.
It's not a standard rap album at all, but I love that vibe. So for me, it really worked. It's a lot of how do you say, experimental and hazy psychedelic rock kind of. And I enjoyed it a lot. I've listened to it quite a bit, actually. I just forgot about it, but just scrolled down a bit and I got to it. So Let's Start Here, Lil Yachty. It's a weird album cover too. It's not one you forget, but somehow I did. But no, good album. Would recommend.
Sweet, I'm gonna listen to that as well. I think I saw just that name, Little Yachty, enough to like dismiss it completely. Like I don't even know who he is, but I know he's probably one of those younger rappers that's auto-tune, like you said, or mumble rap or whatever. So, well, that's good, Eric. I would have never have checked it out if it weren't for you talking about it. Awesome. Is it like any Mac Miller vibes?
I mean, I think it's been compared because like he's going in the same route as Mac Miller, who rebranded from being like kind of like a college rapper of like frat music to like really different. So in that sense, I could see that. But me, like when I listened to it right away, I thought like, okay, this is like Igor by Tyler, and it was also then compared to that album. But there were comparisons to Mac Miller as well. But like I struggle to think of an album of Max that actually has like this exact kind of vibe, but clearly there is a bit of a comparison to make there. And I guess this is a good exercise too and not that you're gonna, and I mean you by you I mean all of us gonna listen to everyone who puts out music, but it's a good lesson to like maybe not dismiss artists who like we look at as like auto-tune mumble rapper, which is exactly what I did until I saw people said this is a good album. I didn't want to check it out, but be a little open-minded on names that we would maybe initially dismiss and then actually give a chance and come to find out it might be one of your favorite releases of the year. You never know, right? So, anyways, just interesting, and it's fun to see anyways growth in certain artists and like the ability to change your perception on people and things and interests. So it's cool. I liked it a lot.
I like that you just said that, Eric, because I prejudged hard, and I don't know why I do that, because like if we think of actors like Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt were labeled as like pretty boy romance guys in the 90s. Like who knew they were going to grow up to be these badasses, these titans, these legends that they are now, right? So everyone has to start somewhere, right? Be it music, acting. Don't judge like someone's first few albums or very well said, Eric. I like that you said that. The last movie I watched is a movie in which the main actor, fellow Canadian, won the Best Actor in a Leading Role Oscar. He won the Oscar 2-3 days ago for his performance, and it's The Whale with Brendan Fraser. Okay. I had to check this out before the Oscars because I just had a feeling he would win, and he did. Very hard movie to watch in terms of it's very like it's all in it's a contained movie. It all takes place in one location. Could have also been a play, you know.
Right.
Brendan Fraser is absolutely phenomenal, but it's very sad to watch someone like that live his life and have these. The movie is intense conversations, intense arguments, verbal like people like saying disgusting things to each other. It's very like vile that way. A lot of cool side characters. The supporting characters are also amazing, you know. Sadie Sink, who plays Max in Stranger Things, she's great in it. She's his daughter. You got his nurse, which she was actually nominated for an Oscar too, supporting role. She's like a Vietnamese actress, I think, or Chinese. Anyways, and then you got like his ex, and you got the young boy from Iron Man 3 and Jurassic World. Who's now grown up, Ty Simpkins or whatever his name is. He's in it. I didn't even recognize him, but he's really great in it. So Brendan Fraser's surrounded by like acting talent, and he bounces off them perfecly. And I don't think the movie would have been as good, honestly, if it wasn't for these supporting characters that are so awesome and like such these actresses were so good. But very sad movie. Enjoyed it. Do I enjoy it? I guess I enjoyed watching the art of film and watching like a really well-made movie. But did I enjoy myself watching this sad and depressing movie? I don't know. Like I don't know if I ever need to watch The Whale ever again. But it needs to be seen that one time, Eric, because it's so powerful. But then again, that's the debate. Like, are you interested in movies like that are like a downer, that can ruin your day almost? Tough call. I just wanted to see like an actor do his craft, and like I had a feeling he'd win the Oscar, so that was worth watching for that. But like, what are your thoughts on is this something you would watch, Eric?
Yeah, so like I used to go on those runs of like, and thankfully you had oftentimes the movies that were nominated for Best Picture and all that, so I could borrow them from you and watch like to see what the hype was about. I think the one year I really did that was like 2016, I think, with like La La Land, Moonlight. I think was Hacksaw Ridge a part of that run too. Like there's a few of those other movies. Yeah. But by trade, or by and large, I mean, I don't always love those movies personally. Like, I have no interest in seeing The Whale. Like, I'm sure Brendan Fraser killed it, but everything I've heard and what you've just said is like, it does not sound like the kind of movie that I would enjoy. And knowing that, I don't really want to necessarily sit through something that I know going into it. And I'm going completely against what I just said about the Lil Yachty situation, where I should give things a chance that I don't normally like. But this, I think, is a little different because it's sitting through like an entire movie where I kind of know going into it, it's a downer. I don't, by like rule of thumb, love those kind of movies to begin with. The sadder ones, like I know like a Bassam is gonna eat this up. Like he's all in on The Whale if he hasn't seen it twice already. But I think I'm glad to see Brendan Fraser won for it. And I do love that about the Oscars, that it raises awareness for those other movies that you wouldn't necessarily think of watching because they're not promoted the same. Like I've literally never seen a single trailer or promotion for The Whale on TV, on the internet. I know of it because I follow certain outlets that have talked about it, but these movies don't get that much shine in the circles that I'm in anyways, or like even mainstream, I mean. So all that to say, like that's great about the Oscars. You get to see different things, but I have to do a bit of digging on what I actually do want to watch. And I did some digging. I don't want to see The Whale. So that's kind of my take on that, where I used to be interested in that a little more, but now, you know, not that I'm not open to seeing different things, but I know what I like a little more. And I know I could break a movie up in a few sittings, but I don't think this is one I want to. Like from what I've heard, like it's pretty sad, and like the punches just keep coming from what I've heard. Also, like it's like one revelation after the next.
Very well said, Eric. Because life's too short. We will never watch all the movies that exist. Why not watch like more like thrilling and entertaining movies? Good point. Darren Aronofsky, the director, like he's done depressing movies before, like The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream, Mother. But this is like depressing on a whole new level. Those other movies have some redeeming qualities in it, but like this one just takes the cake for like intense, like holy shit, this is like nothing's good here. Nothing's gonna happen. It's not gonna end well. But I love his movies though, so I had to watch I'm a completist. Like I have to watch his whole catalog, so definitely not up there as my favorite Aronofsky films. I would be like Black Swan, I believe, or The Wrestler. But yeah, I don't been pretty light on movies for me. I've been rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's another like 12 hours wasted on movies I've seen before.
No,
wasted because they're super thrilling.
It's not wasted.
That's all I have to recommend today. You got anything else?
No, that's it for me as well. A couple albums, couple movies, actually 6 movies. I just ripped into one loop there. But I think we did a good recap too of Last of Us. Pumped for the next season, and it's a lot of fun, Matt. Good to get back to it. Any final notes for the listeners?
Just thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you enjoyed Last of Us like we did, and that you maybe learned something new, a thing or two, like we brought something up that you hadn't thought about. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you're having a great time right now. And yeah, hope you're excited for the end of winter like me. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well said, Matt. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to stay safe. Love you all, and yeah, peace.